Hello guys, and welcome back to the channel. Now guys, a lot of you no doubt know that Atiku Abubakar is in court at the moment fighting for what he perceives as his mandate that was taken off him by Mahmoud Yakubu, the INEC chairman, and of course Malam Buhari and the cabal. So now a lot of Nigerians have vested a lot of hope in this particular goings on, but that hope, it looks alas, may be dashed because all of the goings on, the preambles to the build-up to this case is not boding well for a positive outcome both for Atiku Abubakar and the Nigerian nation. So with that guys, I bring you this. Supreme Court strikes out suit seeking the disqualification of President Muhammadu Buhari in the 2019 presidential election over alleged perjury. So that's the headline. Supreme Court strikes out suit seeking the disqualification of President Buhari in the 2019 presidential election over alleged perjury. So now let's find out exactly what's going on here. The Supreme Court has struck out the suit seeking the disqualification of President Muhammadu Buhari in the 2019 presidential election over alleged perjury. The suit, which was filed by Ca.se, Labaran, Ismail, and Hassi El Karis, all legal practitioners. Delivering judgment, the Justice Mary Odili-led panel of 5 justices held that the case was statute barred and therefore dismissed. The justices, during the introduction of appearances, wondered why Abdullahi Abubakar, state counsel from the Federal Ministry of Justice, was representing a private individual. So now let's pause there for a moment. So this Abdullahi Abubakar is a state counsel from the Federal Ministry of Justice. Now, this case that the Supreme Court was hearing was a case filed by these 3 elements, that Ca.se, Labaran, Ismail, and Hassi El Karis, and they are filing it against a private individual. So there's 3 private individuals filing a case against a private individual because they are filing that case against Malam Buhari in his capacity as a candidate for the presidency. So in this capacity, in effect, as a private individual. So what the Supreme Court is then wondering is why Abdullahi Abubakar, a Federal Ministry of Justice personnel, is representing this private individual called Muhammad Buhari, because the suit was against Muhammad Buhari, as I said, as a private individual. So why is the government legal team then defending Buhari as a private individual? So this is the question that these justices are asking this guy. So we carry on. Abubakar had announced his appearance for the first respondent, General Muhammadu Buhari, retired, in the suit. They want him to desist from such act of using public office to defend a private litigation. Mohammed Dattijo, whilst addressing the council, cited the President Bill Clinton's numerous private cases whilst in office. Clinton, in his numerous private litigation, never used government organs, but rather personally sponsored all his private cases. He warned that his action contravenes the Code of Conduct for Public Servants, which have consequences. So now this is the court. So there are 2 elements to this. The first element is that they dismissed the case, but then the second element is that they then addressed this person representing Buhari directly, because the person representing Buhari, of course, is a government functionary, is a functionary of the Federal Ministry of whatever federal ministry. Which federal ministry did we say earlier on? Let me just pick that up from the top again. So is a functionary of the Federal Ministry of Justice. Yes, of course. So is a functionary of the Federal Ministry of Justice and is representing President Buhari in his private capacity as a presidential candidate. So how do the 2 square up is really what these justices are addressing with this particular character, this Abdullahi Abubakar, who is representing Buhari on public purse expense. So they are saying to him that, look, this is completely unacceptable and this goes against against the code of conduct for public servants, because you cannot use state funds to defend a private citizen, because President Buhari can well go hire lawyers by himself, because he has all of the monies in the central bank to do that, so he can jolly well go do that. You cannot use operatives of the Federal Ministry of Justice to persecute or to prosecute a case that involves you as a private individual. So we carry on again. Odili, in a judgment, said the court notes the inappropriate appearance of Mr. Abdullahi Abubakar, State Counsel from the Federal Ministry of Justice, representing the first respondent, General Muhammad Buhari, retired, in his personal capacity. So exactly what I've just said. This practice must be discouraged. Appeal having been withdrawn is hereby dismissed. So she made the point to caution him yet again. So two of the judges in that five-man panel, of that five-person panel, made the point to address this frontally, that look, you cannot use the public funds to prosecute a case that involved this guy in his capacity as a private individual, and they cited the American example. So now let's see what the rest of this story has to say. The appellants specifically wanted Buhari's nomination and subsequent victory at the February 23rd presidential election nullified on the grounds that President Buhari lied on oath in his Form 001 that he submitted to INEC for the purpose of clearance for the presidential election. They asked the Apex Court for an order to set aside the judgment of the Court of Appeal and hear the matter on merit and grant the relief sought in the originating summons. So now, this is what happened. So there several elements to this, and let's just explore them. So the first element, really the original story here, is that this appeal now, these people now, because I brought you the previous story when these people went to the Court of Appeal, by the way, to say that President Buhari lied in his documents that he submitted to INEC that qualified him to run as a candidate in that presidential election. And of course, the lies that they are hinging this whole case on was the lies about his certificate, which he claims he has, but which has now been proven that he does not have. So now, if he does not have it, and this therefore was not formally submitted to INEC, and he swore on oath that he does have it, because it's perjury, really, if you swear on oath something that you know for fact that is not true, and we have now established as fact that it is indeed not true that this guy has any really formal credentials. So this is now what this case is being hinged on. So what this court is saying is that it is statute barred. So what the Supreme Court is saying is that this case is statute barred. So now when they say something is statute barred, you can bring a case only within a certain period of happenstance. So if something happens, then you can bring the case against that, you can file a case in court against that only within a certain period, and then once that period elapses, then that becomes statute barred, because it now sits outside of the period that you should have filed that case. So what they are effectively saying is that that case has the opportunity rather to file that case has elapsed. But then you have to look at this seriously, because this is an ongoing concern. So I cannot think that it is statute barred, and it is in fact not statute barred. And again, this case is of such fundamental importance to the Nigerian state that you cannot just brush it aside on a technicality, which is effectively what they are doing. This is what the appeal court did. They brush it aside on a technicality, and the Supreme Court has now doubled down on this. So the Supreme Court rather has now doubled down on this. So if I'm saying now that the firmament does not really look favorably on the Atiku Abubakar position at the electoral panel at the moment, then it is these little cases that we're now seeing now, that or these little judgments that we're seeing now, but although you cannot call the judgment of the Supreme Court a little judgment, but this judgment on minor cases that we're seeing now is the Forbinja, is the forerunner, is the precursor to that bigger narrative of the Atiku storyline. So you can effectively now see that they are closing all the small doors so that they can then shut the big door, and then that Atiku thing then goes away. So this now is the goings on within the Nigerian space. So two elements to this story. They've now shut that opportunity completely for anybody to query this guy off the back of the fact that he does not in fact have the credentials to be the Nigerian president, because there's only one element of that left in the Atiku case, because that is part of the Atiku argument as well to the electoral tribunal. So there is still that element there, but no one can now go outside of that electoral tribunal to file this now, because the Supreme Court has now deemed it to be statute barred. So that's the first element. So, and that doesn't rather bode very well for the Nigerian state, I have to say. But the second element is the caution that they have now put on this lawyer that's come from the Ministry of Justice to come and represent Buhari. The Ministry of Justice is not Malam Buhari's private legal firm. They are not is not on their retainership, and they have no business with him. They only have business with the Nigerian state, and Malam Buhari as a presidential candidate is not the Nigerian state. So why would then somebody from the Ministry of Justice be representing Malam Buhari in his private capacity as a presidential candidate? So this is the question that the Supreme Court rightly put to this fella, this Abdullahi Abubakar, the counsel that went to represent the first respondent, which was of course Buhari. So rightly so, I am in total agreement with that. But of course, that's just a minor victory. It's like giving them sweet after you've punished them. So that's just a little sweetener now, like they're not completely under the term of Malam Buhari, but of course we know they are completely under Malam Buhari's agbada, because if they're not completely under his agbada, something that is so fundamental to the Nigerian constitution that the president must have a baseline of qualification, and you dismiss that on the technicality in the same way that they did with Senator Adeleke in Osun State, etc. So all of these things that we're seeing, it does not at all bode well for Atiku Abubakar at the electoral tribunal that is at the moment. Conversations in the comment section is what I'm inviting. What are your thoughts around this? The court's going to play fair when it comes to this Atiku matter. I am not holding my breath. Are you holding yours? Come tell me how you are positioned on this matter in the comment section. But before you come tell me how you are positioned on this matter in the comment section, click on the red subscribe button so it turns gray. Bell button notifies you every time I drop a new video. Then come tell me how the system is weighed or not weighed in Malam Buhari's favor in the comment section. So I'll leave you here, carry on with you in the comment section. But here I say peace.